Blog Talk Radio.
In a world where tyranny is rampant, few men dare to stand out from the sheep. We are those men, resisting tyranny wherever it may be found. We Resisters Network of Podcasts.
FBGlive. It's like confusion, but straightforward.
And let the man go through. Let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through.
You know, we've been using that for many years. You know, I was looking through the archives over at the FBGlive Blog Talk channel.
Right.
And I was amazed how many times I used that. But anyways, you're listening to FBGlive Special. You know,
yep, this is a special
one, right?
We haven't had a Saturday evening show.
You know, I don't think I've ever broadcast on a Saturday that I can remember.
No, we did. Remember, we used to do Unconventional Ranching.
But that was Saturday morning.
Right. So This is the first ever, that I know about, first ever Saturday evening.
Yeah, and what prompted this whole Saturday endeavor or excursion?
Well, as anyone who's as the fans of FBGlive know, we've been on the We Resisters radio network like we are today.
Right.
And well, normally we're on Fridays, but we had conflict with our guest, right? And so there was a scheduling conflict, and so it was either wait a whole another week or have this conversation the next day.
And sometimes it really just helps to get the subject out
there.
And, you know, I've been dealing with this subject for a long time, and the subject is kind of what do we think about the military when opposed to looking at the law enforcement people? How did you frame that?
Well, the way I look about it, and I guess I could look up the original post. Like if you go to Frankie Nieto on Facebook and you find it, and you can get the original post about why I put it up there. But what originally started was I was just sitting there thinking, working, right, and I was thinking about why is it always kosher to say fuck the police, and just condemn police officers, right, for everything. If I were to condemn for their corruption and their evil ways and their wrongdoing, right? But if I do the same thing to an armed service member, like whether they be Navy, Marine, Air Force, whatever, right? I'm a piece of shit, dirtbag, traitor, fucking na. So it's totally cool for me to be all fuck the police.
Right.
Because but I can't say fuck the army.
What's wrong with the police?
They kidnap, they invade, they extort, and they steal. They rape, pillage, and plunder.
Okay.
What does the military do? What is their profession?
Oh, I got you, man. I totally got you. The kicker is, right, there's a lot of people that go into the military in the name of college or in the name of moving geographically and just getting out of my town. And
right, or hey, you know what? I don't have another option.
They wanted to take that option.
I have another option.
I don't know.
No, I'm not saying like the individuals are bad. I'm just curious about what the show is going to be about, and later we're going to have Rick Rynearson, right? From VAPA.
VAPA, Veterans Against Police Abuse.
Right. Yeah. He's going to come on here and help hopefully shed some light on this and help. Let's do this. And because Rick has got a really interesting view on the whole thing, too.
Yeah, totally. Because Rick comes at it from a serving military standpoint.
Right. He's
already had this discussion
an air commander
countless times over and over again, as have you.
Right.
And when you have that conversation, people just blow you off and say something like, well, you're unpatriotic or get out of my country, right?
Or, well, like one of the, and I hope you don't mind, I'm going to put it out there, but like one of the, because I had this on Facebook, like I said, and so, of course, we're friends, I'm friends with other broadcasters that are on We Resisters Radio, right? And they, one of them, Loki, by the name, said that the difference is that the military is willing to do the ultimate sacrifice for and protect your freedoms and liberty. And I'm like, huh? Mm-hmm. What? ¿Cómo se va?
Yeah.
Because I mean that doesn't make sense to me. It's weird. It's awkward, and to say that someone's going and dying for my freedom and liberty, whether that be their belief. This one's fine. That one's yours. But yeah, whether that be their personal conviction, like what that individual felt in their heart, is one thing.
Right.
But let's just be honest and let's break it down to black and gray semantics, and let's just say.
I don't know. I personally have had many animosities towards all sorts of different people groups. You know, when I first started listening to, alternative thoughts or alternative realities, you know, looking at what is that going on there?
Well, it's just nothing. People logging in and out of the chat right now. Don't distract yourself with that. What was your point?
I don't do the chat room.
I know. Why'd you look at that screen?
Because we got screens all around us, man.
It's
but
great.
They do distract everything. That's the point of this conversation, right? You know, so I guess what I was getting at, the point in, what about prison guards?
Are they accountable?
Right.
Well,
so
I think
we have all these laws, victimless crimes, and people are in jail for victimless crimes, and they're helping perpetuate the system. Isn't that the same argument, you know, just in a different format?
I was going to say that the prison guards and stuff like that, I think they fall in the same line as police. Like they're just lumped into that category as the police. I don't think there's a distinction, because a lot of times, did you know, before you become a patrolman, like you out here in your car and everything, you have to actually do time in the county jail. Like I don't know if that's everywhere, but I know here in Gillespie County.
What do you mean time in the county jail?
You have to serve as a jailer.
You have to work as a jailer.
Yeah, you have to serve because in order to be a patrolman, you have to know every aspect of the job, I guess. You know.
I don't know.
I don't either. I'm making it up as I go.
So it'll be interesting. So we have a new format here. We've been playing with all the knobs, dials, and switches and all the whiz-bang stuff. We have a news break that's coming up after 10 minutes in, right? And after that, we will be taking calls. You know, the call-in number is 347-857-4397. But don't call in right now. 10 minutes after the hour, after doing the news break, you know, we'll go ahead and take some calls after we, you know, welcome Rick onto the show.
Right, and he should be in here.
We can't just jump into calls. So hang in there. The number is 347-857-4397. At least we'll get you queued up.
And like Steve said, the chat room is open. Like I do see there is somebody in there right now. And if you have any questions, once we get into the topic, just go ahead and post them. We'll do our best to get you on the air, or at least not just talk about your question and propose it to Rick or to ourselves, or, you know, whatever. Yeah, we don't screen. I really don't care what's your name or where you're from. I'm not Alex Jones. I don't care about, or I'm not anybody. I don't care about where you're from or what you have to say, or what your name is. If you want to be Ahmed from Timbuktu, Egypt, then that's what you are. I don't care. Let's just, what's your question? Is it valid or not? Or, you know,
right, for sure.
Play on what we're talking about. So, but anyways, yeah. This subject matter does it conflicts me, and I don't like to make people mad. And like I've noticed that servicemen, especially, like a lot of them do tend to get a little bit more angry about it. And it's like, Drew, another broadcaster on our network, right? He on the Facebook post said that, you know, the way I see it is that you know, culturally, you've always been the warrior class, or, you know, the warrior individual has always been something that should be admired and respected, and has always been, you know, held at that level. So that's why there seems to be that double standard between police officers and the military. And I made the argument to him too that, well, most men, and I can't speak for all police officers, but most police officers that are here in Gillespie would tell me the same thing, that what they believe they're doing is right and just and for the best and safety of the community.
Okay, so they're the same in their own minds.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and then you have to take in the factor of that the fact that a lot, especially now, that I would go as far as for the last 40 years that the majority of your police officers are former military.
Yeah.
They're guys that can't. Well, they've been kicking in doors in the desert, and now they fucking have to come home, and it's like, well, I can't work at T-Mobile, so.
I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to throw stones. Back in the early 2000s, I outsourced lots of jobs to India, or I participated in that actual procedure. Does that make me guilty for, pushing jobs, away from America? Should I have thrown up my arms and said, I'm not going to be playing this game anymore?
Well, I guess that would make you guilty of that if you weren't if you don't believe in capitalism and
at the
free
time
market.
I just said, well, hey, man, I got a job. You guys will find new jobs. I'm going to do my job. They hired me to do this job, and so I did the job. Now I look back at that and I kind of trip out on it, and I go, what would I have done different? Because there was a lot of interesting nuances. But I don't know. But in a way, I was playing around with the outsourcing of America, moving jobs to China and India.
They took your jobs! And it was all Steve's fault, apparently.
I don't know. Well, there was we were getting huge tax breaks from the government for moving jobs out to India and China and, God, everywhere. It was kind of a crazy time.
Anybody else that would do the labor at a more, I guess, economically convenient cost? I don't know. So, yeah.
But anyways, I did end up bumping into Ron Paul, right, when I was just looking at the world going, man, this world kind of sucks. And he talks all sorts of interesting thoughts, right?
Yeah, this individual, like sometimes the best way I described Ron Paul, or no, I didn't describe him, somebody else described him to me, right? And it was one of these neocon talk show hosts, right? The way they described it to me was that Ron Paul was was like your crazy drunk uncle who's had a couple beers, right? And then he says some things that he's not supposed to say out loud. And so that's what really got me interested in this dude named Ron Paul. And so we and I think it's appropriate what we're going to play, though, because a lot of people like to bring up September 11th. Like, that's the first time we've ever been inside of the desert was because of September 11th, right? Mm-hmm. And Ron Paul during the 2008 campaign, when he first threw his name in, that wasn't the first time he ever threw his name in the ballot for presidency.
No, I think he was in the 70s.
Right, in his earlier career, right?
Doing the libertarian thing before anybody knew what a libertarian was.
Right, he was like riding with Ross Perot and everybody.
No, but I'm confused.
Right, and I have a weird understanding of what a libertarian is. And so, anyways, we have him in this debate from the 2007-2008, campaign, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Where he talks about why the reason is that
we're about
they're
to
bombing us.
Break. So, do you want to play that clip before break, or?
Oh no, well, we can wait till the break. Yeah.
Okay.
I see that we have a caller on the line.
Yeah, that's Rick.
So, okay, if that is Rick, we'll just hang in, man. We're hitting the room, and we'll see you. We're going to this break. And, get right to you.
Yeah, we still have 15
Wait, we still have 59 seconds. I'm trying to figure out. These breaks going to be... Oh, the Liberty Beat. We'll bring in the Liberty Beat from yesterday.
Yeah, totally. And we're a little bit flustered because we've given all the control to our musical segments to the computer. And so we're counting down and watching a second counter, which we normally don't do.
Yeah, this is when we said it's FBGlive special, you were definitely talking about something special here. We're trying something totally different.
Yeah, it looks like Rick's there.
All
we're
right,
going to get to him really quickly.
Yeah, once we get back from this break. And I hope you all enjoy this little station identification. This is FBGlive special edition. We're normally on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Texas Standard Time, where we talk about anything and everything and all things. It's usually formatted for a 2 to 3 hour show, and we do all that good stuff, and we cover a lot of variety topics. Sometimes we do have to go ahead and go into a bigger one. Like I said, here's the break music, and enjoy this little news break from the Liberty Beat. And then stay tuned afterwards for Rick Rynearson from VAPA.
Will draw you when to hear. Too fast, you must cut clean. You gotta take the elevator to the next one.
This is the Liberty Beat, your daily source for Liberty news and activist updates. Online at libertybeat.com. I'm Brian Hagan with your Liberty Beat for Friday, November 21st, 2014. Gold is trading around $1,193. Silver is trading around $16.23. And Bitcoin is trading around $350. Today's precious metal prices brought to you by Midas Resources Incorporated, helping clients convert their paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver. Get their 10 Reasons book free by calling 800-686-2237. 686-2237. The Liberty Beat is brought to you by eFoods Direct, redefining the way you think about storable food. eFoods Direct is offering 10% off to all Liberty Beat listeners. Just go to efoodsdirect.com/LibertyBeat or call 800-620-5520 and mention Liberty Beat for your savings today. In the news, a common-sense middle ground approach. That's what President Barack Obama called his plan regarding immigration reform, as unveiled during a speech Thursday night.
We're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security. Felons, not families. Criminals, not children. Gang members, not a mom who's working hard to provide for her kids.
The executive order means those undocumented immigrants who have lived in the United States for 5 years or more, who are the parents of either American citizens or lawful residents, will not be deported. Before that would happen, they would have to undergo criminal and national security background. Their status would be reviewed every 3 years. Supporters of Michael Brown and police officers in riot gear flashed on Wednesday night as Ferguson awaits a decision from the grand jury. About 50 officers in helmets carrying shields and batons charged at a small group of protesters in below freezing temperatures. Protesters reportedly sounded sirens and shouted at the police. Local authorities have said the officers would reserve the right to put on riot gear when they feel their safety is at risk. The smaller protests throughout the week have all been peaceful and non-threatening. On Thursday, thousands of demonstrators across Mexico and the United States took part in strikes and protests to raise awareness on the kidnapping of 43 students from Iguala in the southern state of Guerrero. Protesters marched through the streets of Mexico City, as well as Houston, Los Angeles, and New York. The Liberty Beat, sponsored by Central Texas Gunworks, your online source for firearms, firearm accessories, and ammunition. They take major credit cards and now accept Bitcoin. Visit them online, shop.centraltexasgunworks.com. Did you know you can support the Liberty Beat when shopping on Amazon.com? Just log into your account after clicking our Amazon affiliate link at libertybeat.com/Amazon. This is the Liberty Beat for Friday, November 21st, 2014. Check out the website at thelibertybeat.com and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/thelibertybeat.
John Bush here with an update from the road on the Unconventional Living Tour, my family's Bitcoin-only trip across the country. One of the tools that's helped us the most in our journey has been the Airbits Bitcoin directory and wallet. According to Paul Fway, CEO of Airbits, he saw a strong demand for a user-friendly Bitcoin business directory and decided to help make one.
It was a pain point of a Bitcoin user to find where I can spend Bitcoin, and I looked at the other merchant directories and the other solutions, mobile apps, web apps. They felt like such garage projects.
While in Albuquerque, New Mexico, we used Airbits to find a Mexican restaurant that accepted Bitcoin called Ortega's. After we paid our tab, we convinced our waiter to set up a wallet and tipped him with Bitcoin. While in San Diego, my wife Kat and I helped a couple of street artists to set up an Airbits wallet so we could buy painting for our daughter Aliana. And on our final night, we ate at another Bitcoin-accepting restaurant called Draft and again set our waiter up with an Airbits wallet and tipped him out with Bitcoin. The last waiter was pretty skeptical, but as Fway says of the Airbits app, it's a great tool for Bitcoin evangelists as it helps new users to see how useful Bitcoin truly is.
Our goal was to be an app that, as an evangelist, this is the de facto thing I'm going to send people to, because it's familiar to set up, it's already secure as soon as they set it up, and they already know where to spend Bitcoin. They already know how to make it an actual currency and to really help the economy.
To download your Airbits wallet today, search Airbits, that's Bits with a Z, in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or use the business directory online at airbits.co. Follow the rest of our Bitcoin-only road trip at uncoinventional.com. We'll be on the road through November spending nothing but Bitcoin. Until next time, peace, love, and Bitcoin.
Today's edition of the Liberty Beat made possible by Magic Mud, the most effective and affordable dental care around. A one-page application jar at buyMagicMud.com. One to 10,000 of like-minded listeners every day with more message products. Liberty Beat is looking for sponsors for their daily news service. To inquire further, visit thelibertybeat.com/advertise. This is the Liberty Beat for Friday, November 21st, 2014. I'm Brian Hagan reporting, reminding you, spread liberty with a smile.
FBGlive. Local sheep. Bah.
In a world where tyranny is rampant, few men dare to stand out from the sheep. We are those men, resisting tyranny wherever it may be found. We Resisters Network of podcasts.
If I stole somebody else's wave to fly up, and if I rose up with the avenue behind me, some kind of verb, some kind of moving thing, something unseen, some hand is motioning to rise, to rise, to rise.
We're gonna rise. I don't know about taking an elevator anywhere.
I don't know about that guy anymore.
Right.
The more you listen to him, the more he's talking about bossing people around.
For sure, and moving away out of the way for the man. So this is a FBG Live special edition where we're talking about military accountability.
And I'm not too sure that that's the right, subject title, but it's good enough to get the ball rolling. And we have our special guest, Rick Rynearson. He's the founder of Veterans Against Police Abuse, a police accountability group that, wants to develop new and interesting ways to protect you from, ever reoccurring danger out there. Every time you take to the road, what do you see everywhere?
Police. Militarized police.
Well, they're dressed like military.
A lot of them are.
Hey, Rick, are you on the line?
Yeah, Steve, I'm here. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, right on, man.
Cool. So the subject matter on a vague point, right? People will sit there and go gushing over military people and go, we love you guys, thanks for protecting and serving. And, what do you think about that?
Well, first let me just say that these are all my personal opinions, and I'm not here representing the DoD or the Department of the Air Force or anything, so just my own personal views. But, it's interesting that you bring that up. My wife and I just went to a concert last night, and at one point, the singer took a moment to ask everyone in the audience who had ever served in the military to stand up, and multiple people stood up and received this adulation. It's something that kind of troubles me. So I think that we have a history or a culture of recently, especially post 9/11, of kind of this hero worship, and I don't think it's necessarily a good symptom in our democracy. So I think hero worship of the military is not a good sign. I think that people should typically be wary of their standing army and of the military, and I don't think that blind adulation and praise for someone simply because they serve in the military is necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from there. But so what about today's youth, right? Kids are being taught that go into the military, protect and serve, and the whole. Well, some of them leave civilian life and go into the military because there is a difference between civilian life and military, from what I understand, right? You kind of sign yourself away. Is that correct, Rick?
Well, I guess yes and no.
Am I wrong? Okay, good. I like the explanation.
Well, I mean, a person always has the ability. They're the last check and balance in anything that they do. So, they do agree. It is true, they do agree that for a period of time that they're gonna answer the call, as put, and they're gonna do what they're told to do, and I think that's a good thing. But they always, at the end of the day, if something is illegal or is not in the benefit of the American people, they always refuse. Now there will be consequences, obviously, but.
And those consequences vary, right? You do your service in a jail cell, or we're going to kick you out and say you're dishonorably discharged, or they'll shoot you, right? Something like that.
Well, I guess all of those are possibilities, but yeah.
Anyways, so a person goes. So you talk about a standing army, right? And that's what we have. It's a very, aggressive army, and it pushes its arms all over the world. And if you join that, are you not part of the problem? Or that's the crux of the argument that you laid out, Frankie.
I guess so. Yeah, that's like at the level, basically at the root of the thought. What brought me to this whole subject matter, and I felt like we should have this conversation, is I was thinking about it, and there's so many websites and Facebook pages, Twitter accounts that are all dedicated to, holding police accountable for when police commit crimes and everything like that, and are corrupt. And everyone seems to be on board about that, and everybody's all kosher with that. But the moment you say, well, shouldn't there be some kind of military cop watch, something like that, or I'll even go this far. And what was getting me is this is how I saw it, was that if a cop goes home, beats his wife, and murders his children, he's a fucking pile of shit, da-da-da-da-da. But if a serviceman does it, for some reason people are more quick to go, he's got post-traumatic stress, he's got some militia, some fucking mental disorder, da-da-da. I mean, it might be, it's the truth as my reality, as I've seen it, as it's playing in the world that I see throughout newspaper articles and fucking, social media feeds and things like that. That's the truth that I see it, but I might be totally wrong.
Well, there seems to be 2 points there. I think one is, association, the association point. So if you join an organization that has bad apples in it, I know we don't like that term, bad apple, but that has some corruption in it or some wrongdoing, does that necessarily reflect on the person who joins that organization? So that's the first point. And then I think the second point or the question was, what about accountability for the military? So first off, nice to meet you, Frankie. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
What's cool?
I would say
we actually met at the first Peaceful Streets Accountability Summit. Yeah, when they were at that Mexi restaurant and you had the car.
Yeah.
You were on your way back to your hotel room and you had a 6-pack of beer and everything. And we just chatting in the parking lot for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you now. Yeah.
No, it's cool
good to be able
to talk with you again. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing is association. I would say, joining the police or joining the military, you join to be a public servant and to serve the community, and I think that's a good thing. And I don't think that a desire to join an organization reflects, some sort of a negative connotation. So I think it is wrong to judge people who join an organization, to judge them without individual evidence, simply because they're a member of a group. It's wrong when we judge, people, because they're part of a political party or a socioeconomic status. It's always wrong to judge an individual not based on their individual evidence or their character, but rather on our own biases.
The collective.
As a group. Yeah, I think so. I think that's always wrong, and it's something that liberty activists, we need to be very cautious of to avoid going down, that hole. It's something that I think kind of hurts the cause, and it also is something that bad cops and bad public servants do. They paint us, the citizenry, with a broad brush. We're all criminals, we're blah, blah, blah. So we don't want to do the same thing that they do. So I think the association thing, you can't judge an individual based on it. And it is a group, the military or the police, there are good cops and there are good military folks, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with being a public servant. Now, when they choose, evidence suggests otherwise, then we should hold them accountable.
Right. And I totally agree with you that there is, in all these associations or these organizations, there exist good individuals. And I know that, and that's an argument I kind of make, too, with people that I was trying to poke at, too, is everyone, because everyone's real quick, well, those guys that joined the military, they chose to go and make a sacrifice and protect your freedoms and your liberties, and they think what they're doing is for the best interest and the security of our nation, while the police officers...
Or they just want cheap college.
While the police officers, they are protecting corporate interest, and they could quit their job. It's not that easy just to walk away from being in the military. And I'm like, this all sounds like excuses, because like I talked about in the beginning of the show, is that I'm pretty sure, I can't speak for all police officers, but I know a lot of them here in Gillespie County, because I've had different, all kinds of interactions with them. And I know at their hearts and personal conversations that I have with them that they believe what they're doing is best for the community and what's best for their family, and to uphold the peace and security of the nation. And so for them, it's just hard for me to I'm just trying to figure out why it's okay to judge and criticize the police, but not the military, and nobody seems to want to have that conversation. I'm glad you're willing to at least have the conversation and at least go. And it seems like we're on the same page that, well, I'm not against the organization itself. I'm against the...
And I'm going to stop you there real quick. So if you're on the same page, where do you differ? Do you hear differing views? What is Frankie saying that's wrong, Rick?
Well, actually, so far I haven't heard anything I think is wrong. The second point that, he raised was, well, don't we need to hold military accountable like we do police? And the answer is absolutely yes. So good on you guys for having this show and for raising the point. And the answer is yes. The citizens need to hold the military accountable just like we hold cops accountable. We're public servants, and beyond that, we're public servants that are entrusted with the most lethal power in human history. Okay? The American military today. The American military today is the most powerful organization that has ever existed on this planet. And so it's absolutely incumbent upon the American citizens to hold all public servants and definitely the military accountable.
And see, and that's kind of where I'm coming at this too, is that
How do you do that?
Okay, let me finish my point, and now I'm not going to that.
Point.
And then, well, it's not even a point. Let me just finish what I was saying. That I'm coming from that aspect that, if anything, the military should even, because we live in this culture where they're the warrior class, and it should be commendable about they're willing to go ahead and fight in the wars and front lines and things like that. But and with that bravado or that pedestal, whatever you want to call it, or that degree of honor or respect, shouldn't there be even more weight on them to be held accountable? And that, and a lot of people, right? Okay, now how do we fix that? How do we go about that? Like, can we do body cams on police officers like many states are doing with police officers? Could we do that with the military? Is that possible?
I don't. See, here's another, I think, important thing we need to talk about to frame the discussion. Okay, so being a military professional is like being a stick. Okay, so you're the stick in the hand, okay, that goes and beats our enemies, hopefully, over the head. You're not the hand, though. Okay, so a military professional executes the orders of the representatives of the American people, and in accordance with the laws. So if you want to know, if you want to get into the discussion of how the stick is swung, Well, that's something that has to be done with the political process. It's not fair to go to a military professional and to, chastise them because, they are doing things that you don't think are right, so long as those things that they are doing are legal. That is something that you need to go talk to the hand about. If you don't want us in Iraq, just like I thought it was a horrible war, but it was a legal war, even though it was a very bad idea. So as a military professional, off I went. Public servants are people who serve the American people. It's not like they can take their own morality, and then execute that. We get paid by the American people to execute the American people's will. So, and that's translated by what do our elected leadership, what do they want, what do they have, what do they command the military to do, and is it in accordance with the law? As long as it's in accordance with the law, our job as public servants is to execute the will of the public, whether we like it or not.
Okay, can I get a little clarity? What do you mean by the law? Why? Because in all honesty, I thought the second invasion of Iraq was definitely unlawful because there wasn't Congress approval to go into Iraq.
Okay.
That's kind of one of those.
We're talking about federal law, sure. And you're getting into, I think, the constitutional argument, which is a good one. Article 1 gives Congress the power to declare war, and so there's this idea that if Congress does not declare war, that a war is therefore unconstitutional or illegal. However,
right.
The last power enumerated in Article 1 to Congress is the power to make, quote, all laws necessary and proper for bringing into execution all powers granted in the entire government. That's the last power given to Congress. And they did that. They made a law that brings into execution their own power to declare war, and that law they passed is called the War Powers Resolution. And if you go and read the War Powers Resolution, Congress said we can either declare war or we can authorize war, or if we haven't done that and there's a clear danger, the president can submit troops for up to 60 days on his own. Congress has made it a little bit more complicated.
Right, we need to read a little bit more into that one.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now again, is that a good thing? I mean, Congress has given itself the power to authorize war rather than declare war. I don't know,
right.
But it is
I don't
possible,
necessarily.
and so Iraq was authorized.
I don't believe in throwing rocks, right? I'm kind of one of those non-interventionist type guys, but I don't know. What's a just war? Do you know of a just war? Have you ever heard of one? Rick?
Is that directed to me? A just war, it's kind of a fuzzy concept.
No, it doesn't have to be a real war, just a fictional just war.
Yeah, and I think that's something that military professionals hope that they'll be called to execute. If we're ever sent into combat, we hope we're doing so as part of a just war, something to serve our nation. However, we didn't raise our hands and say, I swear that if you pay me all this money, I'm going to go out and only execute just wars. We serve the American people. So whether a war is just or not, it depends on the individual who's, deciding the question. As long as it is lawful, that is our domain. We are here to execute the laws and the will of the American people, so long as it's lawful.
Okay, well then, now I've been operating under the impression that even as a service member, you still had the right to refuse a order that you thought was immoral or unjust.
And you do.
Right? Is that right?
Well, do you have the right to do so? I mean, you always can do so, and again, it's going to have consequences. But what I think it's not. We have a duty. We have a duty to refuse unlawful orders. Now, that's different than immoral, because what you may think of as immoral and I may think of as immoral are different things. But what is lawful, now that is the key question. Again, we're not out there to serve our own personal morality. We're there to serve the morality of the American people, which is diverse, and it's distilled into a collective morality, which is called our law. That is our law. It is the reflection of the society as a whole's morality, and that's what we have to guide ourselves by. And we do have a duty, absolutely, to refuse unlawful orders, not immoral orders.
Okay, see, that's where I
always
missed.
Immoral.
That's where I missed the story.
Immoral.
Right, because I thought it was immoral, but the word is unlawful.
Right. I mean, war is an inherently immoral action. I mean, you're talking about going and killing people. I mean, who finds that really moral? Even in the best case scenario of the just war, it's an awful thing.
Oh yeah.
So, but what matters is what's lawful.
Yeah, to the soldier. So you exist in two realities, right? You exist as the civilian, Rick Rynearson, and also the military one. The civilian one when you're operating under your own accord, but the military is always going to have something over you, right? You're still with us. But then you have military law that you have to go by, right? And so orders have to be followed or consequences. But the legal systems are totally different. But I don't know anything about that because I've never been in the military, and that's why I asked you the question.
Oh, yeah, I don't actually see it as something that's divergent. So me, as a military officer, me as a civilian, in my own individual capacity, it's the same. I don't see those as two separate things. I think that we need to have accountability for our government servants, our public servants. So in VAPA, I seek that accountability for police and others. And then as a military officer, I require that accountability of myself, and I seek it from my peers as a public servant as well. So for me, it's the same. It's not something that's different.
Okay, I get that. No, I was just talking about the rules and regulations that were being, applied to you, because, the standards of free speech with me. I mean, every interview that I've had with you, you give the disclaimer that the views, your views are your views, and they're not the government's views, right? You do that for clarification because, I can say anything I want, and if you misstep and say something they don't like, then, everything goes to pot. So you have a few more rules that are, applied to your life. That's what I was kind of getting at.
Sure, it doesn't, but free speech for a military person is still free speech. I still have a First Amendment right. The reason I bring up the disclaimer that I'm speaking for myself and not on behalf of the government is because I am speaking on behalf of myself and not the government. So I'm not commissioned by the government or anybody else to give a specific viewpoint or whatever. That's the only thing. But it doesn't limit what I said.
Okay.
I didn't. Using contempt
I didn't want to say
for
that. And I'll give him kudos, right? I've heard what you say, and you don't necessarily agree with all the points that they want to push across, they being, the armed forces of the United States. But you still are free to talk. I mean, they've been setting up free speech zones in different parts of, the city, and they say, here's your right to gather, and you sit in here and talk for free. Right. Out there, you go to jail. There's a big difference. Military seems to allow people to speak.
They seem to allow people to speak?
Yeah, free speech.
Yeah.
Rick's talking.
I guess so, yeah.
Right. There's a lot of veterans that are still talking.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of veteran activists.
Right, in the city, the police will tell you this is your tent. You go in there and you can talk to each other. It's the free speech zone.
So, there we go again. And so that's one of those double standard maybe lines. Does that make the police officer a bad guy too? Because technically, the police officer is theoretically doing, from its understanding, they're following lawful orders and doing the will of the people. Like an officer may personally not have a problem with the pot law, but they caught you, and it's illegal for you to have this, so my jaw says I have to take you to jail.
I'd go with Rick's argument. That's a cog in the wheel again. And for that particular
we should be attacking
the
policy versus
leader,
the individual.
Versus the individual.
Well, not the stick, the hand that feeds, or the hand controlling the stick.
Do you think differently?
We're talking also about. well, we're also talking about free speech zones here, you know. And so, again, we do need to hold people accountable, including public servants, and they do have a duty to refuse unlawful orders. And that's a very difficult thing, because not only are we expected to, you know, execute the will of the people as military people, you know, technically with whatever equipment that we have to learn, or a cop, you know, he has to learn different techniques and maneuvers, you know, the basics of your job. But beyond that, we have to know what is an unlawful order. I mean, that's quite a charge. People go to law school to learn the law, and yet we're required at least to know enough to be able to say no. So if you're a police officer and you're supposed to go and enforce a free speech zone, you should know that that's a violation of the First Amendment, and you should refuse to do it. Now, when you get into the drug argument, that becomes, I think, a little bit more difficult.
One of the problems with autopilot is the brakes come up too hard. So, hey, Rick, just hang on to the, you know, end of the break.
Sheer chance will draw you
FBGlive on the We Resistors Network.
Too fast, you must cut clean. You gotta take the elevator to the next.
In a world where tyranny is rampant, few men dare to stand out from the sheep. We are those men, resisting tyranny wherever it may be found. We Resistors Network of Podcasts.
You're saying yes. Let's talk about fine. Sharon, the NEA is a loser. Yeah, it accounts for a penny out of her paycheck, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. If liberals are so fucking smart, how come they lose so goddamn always? Hey, and with a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. Sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom. All right. And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yosemite? Sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chests. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured disease, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest. If I stole somebody else's wave to fly up again,
Always stealing.
and if I rose up with the avenue behind me, some kind of verb,
Yeah, you know, maybe
kind of moving thing, something unseen,
very aggressive.
motioning. To rise,
angry at the
to
world.
rise, to rise.
Well, welcome back to the FBGlive.
Special edition.
Accountability.
And military.
Actually, it's military accountability. But I was kind of wanting to bump Rick to have him talk a little bit about police accountability and, how you got involved in police accountability as an active serving, military guy. Can you give me a nutshell thing?
Sure. Well, I had bad experiences, unlawful arrest by a police officer, and then also kind of witnessed some unlawful activity by the Border Patrol, and so all those things and multiple experiences led me to believe that we have real threats to the Constitution here at home, and as a guy who's deployed 8 times overseas and to defend this nation and defend our freedom, at least purportedly, right? When I came back and I experienced those things, I thought, well, this is just not good. The real threat is not overseas where I was; it's actually here, and I'm not gonna stand for it. I'm gonna do my part to defend the Constitution, like I swore to the American people I would do.
Right, totally. And you ended up forming VAPA, and you prototyped one of the most safety-oriented vehicles I've seen in a long time, right?
You mean that spy Mitsubishi?
That's a safety vehicle, man.
Yeah.
It's a prototype for the future. It has cameras everywhere and mics everywhere.
Doesn't it do a smoke screen?
Well, yeah, that's kind of excessive. You were just being a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I don't want to belittle the car because, that actually, put the idea on the map. And then in the ensuing years, I saw all sorts of little personal devices being sold. You can hang them on your window, you can hang them on your dash, and they're cheap, and they're kind of shoddy, but they're still out there because there's kind of a market for a car that, keeps your point of view yours, right? Unmanipulated reality. And that's where you were kind of like going with the iCitizen project you were thinking of for when you get out of the military. You still thinking about that?
Yeah, I sure am. And I got a year and a half left until I become a civilian. So, I want to take the APA full time and really move. And I've got some ideas and some technologies and stuff that I would like to work on that I think would help Americans preserve the truth and also try to bridge the gap between on the streets and the legal system. So, it's one thing to document the truth. It's another thing to get accountability, and I'm sure we're all aware that there are a lot of challenges when you try to get accountability through the legal system. There are a lot of barriers for the ordinary American, and I would like to try to tear those barriers down as much as I can.
And it's really hard to get this concept visualized on the radio waves. But one of the things that you put forth the months or whatever after I met you was the idea of having an application on your phone that you could hit the button and it would notify people that are, interested in what's going on. So everybody would be, here's a chat room, everybody come over because Rick's getting pulled over. And also, all your video logs and everything's being recorded. You could add in like a legal feature where your lawyer is being notified that Rick's getting pulled over and you have a team of people looking over the video footage for the last 5 minutes. And, then they have to deal with, your lawyer, your defense person, instead of just you on a traffic stop. Is that similar to what, or am I blowing that all out of proportion?
No, that sounds like the iCitizen, and basically, we want to harness community with that. So when if a cop pulls you over unlawfully and starts some unlawful behavior, it's like a giant spotlight gets turned on them, right? They think they're out in the middle of nowhere, doing whatever they want, and they're protected because they think it's going to be their word against your word, but the iCitizen turns the tables on them because real-time evidence is presented to your community in real time. So everybody's watching it happen while it's actually going on. And the team, your community, they can actually take action in real time to try to lessen violence or whatnot. They can call the supervisor while it's happening and say, look, officer, whatever, just, said X, Y, or Z, or did this, and here's the evidence. And so once that connects back to the police officer. He gets a phone call while he's in the field during the stop itself from his supervisor saying, "Hey, dude, what are you doing?" That's gonna probably lessen the chance of violence. He's gonna know he's being watched.
Right, totally. And one of my big points when I talk about iCitizen, when I don't actually use iCitizen, I talk about the concept of a car that protects you, right? As the officer is walking up to your door, an LCD comes on in the back window and says, "Hey, yo, Officer Spangola," or whatever your name is, right, over here, I'm his representative, right? There's an instant connection. You're being recorded. And then all of a sudden that's kind of intimidating to have, an LCD talk to you with some kind of authority. They can choose to deny that authority, but eventually it'll be like, no, man, that guy has a lawyer, right? He has a legal defense system. And as soon as you decided to pull him over, he had a team that instantly went to work and reviewed all those camera logs. Now, be very careful, officer, what you say, because, that changes the game completely. So I hope, you guys succeed, I know somebody's going to succeed in making this damn thing, as long as the internet stays open.
Oh, for sure. But, yeah.
What do you think there, Rick? Is the internet going to remain open?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know. Is the internet going to continue to be a great liberating force for people, or is it going to turn out to be the biggest tool of tyranny we've ever seen? I think the question, the answer to that question, is still an open one, and I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah, I hear you. I remember when Google came out with, the Google cars, and they were driving around taking footage of you. I was thinking, wow, I could start a business and I'll just have a business and I'll follow people around in public. Oh, you want me to follow this person? Okay, I'll pay this, car, drone, whatever. I mean, the only answer to surveillance is counter-surveillance, and that's the way you can actually prove your point. And I don't know. It kind of sucks that we're living in a society that has to think for an application, and as a system, methodology like,
to protect itself from the people that are entrusted to protect them. Yeah, it's crazy that we live that we've come to that point as a society that we have to come up with these ideas. But I guess it's a good thing. It was inevitable because, was it power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely? So, give a man a little bit of power, and all of a sudden it's an ego boost. It's a trip.
Hey, what do you think about cameras, Rick? You
cameras?
have lots of different cameras, videos, streaming, all that other stuff. Is that a good thing for us to be monitoring our property and,
investments?
Yeah, are they great or they suck? Because I have friends that say, "Don't take a picture of me."
Yeah, I do have those too.
I
don't want to be on film.
I think they're a necessity. The train's left the station as far as cameras go, so and he who owns the video footage, gets to control the narrative in some way, and we see the cops do that all the time. They might have the truth of what happened, but they don't have to release that video. So, we have to defend ourselves with cameras when we're in the public sphere, and we have to document the truth. And then as far as for your property, absolutely, it's the same thing. You need to have camera technology, and you need to be able to secure the video evidence because, we are at that point where government has, I think, intruded upon our lives in a very large way, and so whenever you have an interaction with law enforcement, you need to be able to prove that this is what actually happened. If you can't prove that, then you're at a severe disadvantage.
Hey, man, I'd like to ask you some technical questions. I know we're deviating from what we talked about. Is that okay?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so what's your camera preference as far as automobile security systems?
Well, I've kind of just stuck with what I put in the car before. So I've got a Jowtech ADR 3320, which I like. I think there are probably better systems out there, but this one still works, so I use that. And but I have started to tinker with maybe using a GoPro. I just purchased a Ustream device. I think it's Ustream.
Dude, I still want to get one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little red box, and you can connect your camera to it, and then it'll wirelessly connect to the internet if you have an internet connection in your car, and then it'll stream that camera footage over to, I think it's Ustream, and so it's kind of a
once it's sold the live stream. I believe is the standalone.
Yeah, maybe it's live stream. You're probably right.
Yeah, it's really nice. I've seen a broadcaster that was using one, and his quality was excellent. But it's dependent upon the video connection. So I would go on. So you hit live stream in the car.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That last part got broken up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're actually experiencing a little problem right now. What about home systems? Have you ever played with home or business cameras, PTZs, and DVRs? Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have any
I don't talk about the stuff I use for my home system, but yeah, in general, yeah, there's lots of technology out there that you can use. I think one of the key things there, again, just like the cars, is secure the evidence. So be able to stream it to a remote server, and also you have more options in your home. You can have a black box, that has connections to it that's hidden away, that's recording, that'll be hard for an intruder to take, not impossible. But there's lots of ways, but I think it's very important to be able to document what happens in your home as well, especially around your doorway.
And your driveway.
Doorway,
like
driveway, gate,
back, rear entrances, stuff like that.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was curious, Rick, if you wouldn't mind suggesting to our listeners, what are some basic thing or apps or anything like that, or techniques for when you have an interaction with a police officer of holding them accountable or filming it or things like that. Like what are any advice you would give? Yeah.
Okay, well, number one, be able to video record and audio record, and be able to stream it so that it's secure and that it can't be stolen from you. Applications that you can use that are easier, Bambuser, Quick, QIK.com. Both of those are good applications you can use your smartphones to stream. And as far as advice goes, I would say know the law, don't break the law, and realize that if you do break the law, whether it's speeding or running a stoplight or whatever, and law enforcement gets in your world, well, that's what they're expected to do. So you got to realize, you got to have some humility and realize whether you like it or not. If you're breaking the law and they're doing their job, then that's the way it's supposed to work. So know the laws and then and don't break them. And then if it's the officer who's breaking the law, as happens all the time, then you got to be able to video record it and prove the truth of events. And then I think the lawyers would also tell you, not to talk to the cops. So know your rights, exercise them. But I'd say above all, be able to prove the truth of events.
Right on.
Totally. So you said the word Bambuser. Why Bambuser? What do you like about them compared to the others? And I know you haven't done a recent survey, because I like Bambuser too for what they do.
Well, yeah, I think I haven't used it in a while, but I like Bambuser a little bit more than Quick, because I think it still gives you the option to stream privately. So you can stream something to your account, and then later on you can make it public, whereas I think Quick got rid of that option, so anytime you stream it becomes public.
I think they've all shifted their terms of service in that. But Bambuser stood out of or Bambuser, or however they want to call themselves, stood out for me because they're live streaming of events in one resolution to minimize bandwidth, and locally caching the other bits in the file, and then transmitting as soon as it hits Wi-Fi again or at a later time. You can retweak it. You can have first a live event of you getting stopped, and it'll be a little fuzzy, but the people that view the archive, if your phone gets to reconnect to the network and doesn't get broken or something like that, they'll get a HD signal, and so they'll still see detail. So I was kind of like going, wow, that's really good. But, I don't know. If you get arrested, I think they're going to shut off your phone.
for sure. They'll shut off the phone as soon as they find it. Like that first time I got arrested, they took my camera, and the officer made sure to. He goes, "Yeah, turn it off and put it away so that he can't say that we broke it and fucked it up." And I was like, "That's not cool, man. What do you think? Why do you think I would lie? If it's not working, it's not working. Whatever, man." I try to remain kosher with those guys because I understand that sometimes you're just trying to make a living, but and you got to do what you got to do.
I mean, they've got a job to do, but still, we got to hold them accountable. So, and really, what it comes down to, I know Steve mentioned, he seems to have an idea that I live a double life. I have this life as a quote unquote activist, and then I have another life as a statist warmonger or whatever. And I know Steve didn't use those terms, but that's often how I know that's often how I'm described. But in reality, I don't live two lives. I live one life, and it is, I think, consistent. And that is, we need to follow the law, and that applies to public servants, and it applies to Americans. So it's really all about holding each other accountable and following the law.
Totally, man. And the funny thing about you, I get an impression that your word is your word type vibe from you from the time that I met you first, and our digital communications and the numerous shows. We've actually done a few shows together, haven't we?
Yeah, we did. We had a really good one you did on the Thin Blue Line. It was pretty enjoyable.
Oh, yeah, and that's a constant clicker on our counters. Everybody loves to hear that, the second hour where we had all that fun. But my point being, I believe you live in two different worlds, right? Do you live in those two different worlds honorably? Yes. I believe that your yes is your yes and your no is your no. Right, and that allows you to actually exist in those two worlds because you keep them balanced. A lot of people can't. That's all I'm trying to say.
Cool.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. So I don't know. It didn't turn out the way I thought. I thought maybe me and Rick were going to have opposing views, and we were going to have a debate, because this really didn't come out as a debate. It just kind of...
You're not fighting.
It kind of more came out as a clarification and an understanding of what's going on. And because... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No. Well, I think we're on the same page. We just, I think you nailed it, just clarifying things. We all, I think, we can all agree that we need to hold public servants accountable, whether they're military, whether they're law enforcement, whether they're a politician. They work for us. And so it's, about being held accountable. But we also have to realize that I think that, we have to guard ourselves against the desire that I see all the time to paint people, individuals, based on a group association. So we see some bad things, and then we, want to jump to the conclusion that all law enforcement are bad. And I have multiple bad experiences with law enforcement, and I think there is a real problem in that culture. I also will say that I think we have a problem with public servants in the military. I don't think we recruit or train our public servants to do their primary job very well, which is to support and defend the Constitution. So there are real problems out there, and we all should hold government accountable. It's very important for all Americans. It's not a spectator sport. We have to get involved, and so I think we're on the same page. Yeah,
it is kind of trippy, right? Because that goes down to my city level, and I always feel kind of like weirded out because I go into the city, right? I live in the county, so I'm not, in that little district thing, and then they have like this army of 320, 400 people work for the city.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, well, we only have 10,000 people that
live in the population,
in the city, and they have 300 servants, and they do their thing, right? And so they sit in a court office building, sitting all day, pushing keys every.
Well, unless
once
you're
in a while.
unless you're that code enforcer lady, then you're driving around trying to find people's yards that are too long and who's building a garage without a permit. Like, I get that stuff is ludicrous.
So
but
to fill you in, one of our big nemesis is, Rich, is this person called the code enforcement lady here in Fredericksburg, and she regulates which sign you could put where, what color, how high your lawn is, and so forth. A couple years ago, she caught Frankie putting Ron Paul stickers on street signs. And they quickly dragged it through, and it was pretty interesting, I must say.
Yeah, I've had dealings with code enforcement myself for grass being too high, and it is a little annoying to have the government at any level come in and talk to me about my personal private property. I think unless it's affecting you, it's really none of your business.
Right.
But just because we have, there are some laws that are bad. So,
right.
Again, it's not a spectator sport. We have to get involved and try to get those things changed.
So, I might have missed it. So, where does Rick Rynearson stand on the whole drug war argument? Are you wish that would be one of the war? Yeah, is that one of those things that you wish that would be? It's not a spectator sport. If the people feel that it should be. There should be legalization across the board or legalization for this specific things, then they need to go out there and make that known. Or is it one of those things that a cop should know that, well, that's unconstitutional. I can't personally, I don't have, the government or the state doesn't have the authority or the lawful authority to tell someone what they can do, an individual can do with their body. If they want to get high or they want to shoot up Drano, that's their decision. You can't make a law that Drano's illegal.
No, I think you're right, and I think there is a constitutional argument to be made. I think the Ninth Amendment of our Bill of Rights covers the ability of people to do whatever they want with their bodies on their own personal property. I think that is a most basic. I don't think you can have a right that gets any more basic than that. The problem is that the Ninth Amendment is, because it doesn't come out and it's not explicit, it's almost useless in any kind of a legal system. But I think you're right, though. Americans have the right to ingest whatever drugs they want to ingest on their private property. If they're doing so responsibly and they're not out in the public realm putting other people at risk, I think it's absolutely not the place of government to get involved in that discussion whatsoever. And I think we're seeing, Americans are starting to wise up and things are starting to slowly change. So it looks like we're making some improvements in that realm.
Oh, I totally agree. You hit a sweet spot when you did the Mitsubishi, right? Nobody understood that Antonio Beeler was going to be stopped, at midnight on New Year's Eve, and that whole thing would start snowballing. That was kind of like a wake-up call to everybody, and just blew the whole police accountability thing into existence. Because before that, we had Cop Lock and Cop Watch, and, there was lots of other things. But Antonio Beeler and the Peaceful Streets group kind of, put it through the roof. And I remember, you're here with your car that protects you. I'm like going, really?
Right. Yeah.
Somebody made a car for me.
I'm like David Knight. I got Knight Rider here. One over here.
Well, anyways.
And so, okay, all right. Now, check this out. I wonder if you want to have this, if you have any insight to this. So, I'm an anarchist, right? Which means I believe that no man has the authority to create an entity that has power and authority over of another individual, right? Without my consent, right? That's what being an anarchist means to me. I don't know if that's technically correct or whatever, but anyways. So, with that being said, I believe that there shouldn't be anything as a national police or a national military. Like, there shouldn't be a United States of America military, and there shouldn't be anything as the Fredericksburg for instance, where we live, Fredericksburg Police Department. These things should not exist. If individuals want to get together and hire private security forces to have these things, you know, and they want to have armed guards around them with men with guns that are trained to do this, yada, yada, yada. That's their own free market and capitalistic decision to make. But that individual, just because they have that security, doesn't mean that security force, if I'm not interacting with that their employer, they have no authority over me still. I guess I was wondering, does that make any sense, or am I totally off with that?
Argument. What are your thoughts on anarchy and that particular viewpoint on it?
Oh, right. I'm not sure I have battery life. I could probably talk about why I disagree with the anarchist viewpoint for probably about 3 or 4 hours. And I disagree. I disagree with that viewpoint on several levels. But let me just say, I have a lot of friends who claim that viewpoint, and they're some of the most moral people I know, like Pierre of Cop Block. You know, he's an anarchist. He's a very moral person. So just because I disagree with that viewpoint, you know, don't take it as a personal attack or anything.
Oh, never do, man.
So the first question I'd ask you is what's the difference between individuals getting together and hiring a security force and individuals getting together and establishing a constitution that has a security force?
Hold on, I'm thinking about it.
I'm going to go with none.
I can't go that far yet.
Yeah, there's no difference. It's the same damn thing.
Yeah, there's no difference. We've already done that. Again, American government is not something separate from us. So I think it's not helpful to draw a line and to look at government as something that is over us or is separate from us. Government is ours. We own it. That is us as individuals who've come together and created that security force. Now we have to hold it accountable because we give it power, and it has a very, very bad track record of abusing that power. So I think getting involved and taking ownership of the government is the key, not drawing lines and putting government on the other side.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that there is not, like you're saying, there is not difference between a collective group getting together and making that decision in a constitution or in privately, like I described. What would be the difference is that I was born into what they call the United States Constitution. I never got to choose whether or not I wanted to be a part of this system. And to me, that's wrong, and that's a violation of me as a being, which breaks a non-aggression principle and breaks fucking human rights, man. I should have the decision whether or not I want to be a part of
and you do.
Submit myself, but I don't. I am under the authority of the police because everybody decided there's going to be police.
Right.
Everybody decided there's going to be a military. And
everyone
I'm under
decided those things. That's right. And that's my argument.
I was born into it. Okay. I didn't get a say.
Right. Okay, so imagine that you were born to parents who lived in a 3-bedroom apartment. You entered this world owning nothing, okay? You don't own anything. You have no say. You entered the world, and there were people who already inhabited it, including they own this 3-bedroom apartment. So your parents have one room, and another couple owns another room, and another couple owns the third room. And they have 3 of them. The 3 couples have agreed to have rules that dictate how the common areas are going to be used. Now, you're born into that. You didn't ask to be born into that apartment or not, but you're 18 years old. At 18 years old, they said, hey, we're going to give you your own room. You're going to have a say, just one say, on how the public areas are utilized, or you can leave. You can leave. And I know people don't like that. Okay, well, if you don't like it, get out. But that really is the option. You weren't born into this world saying, hey, I'm here now. Everybody do what I say. You're just one person. And there are common areas, and other people have spoken. And so you have a voice, and you have an ability to affect how the common areas are used, or you can leave.
Right. Huh. Or there's a third option, right? You could try to affect change within the system, the group. That's what Rick does.
Persuade
you do,
people.
I do.
Right.
We take the third route.
Instead of using aggression or force. Well, here's my argument.
I understand where you guys are at, but let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, like I said, well, see though too, and like he brought up the whole thing that I was born
You
into
can
this
leave,
apartment
but,
thing,
you know,
and I
where
could
do you
leave,
go?
but it's one of those things. It's like, well, I'm happy about where I'm at. I like living in Fredericksburg. I just don't like the people that are in charge of my hometown.
Well, you don't like
Sure.
Right?
Well, I'm
and so
I'm in the same boat
I can
as
only,
you.
I can only kick out so many people, and try to vote out so many people. Eventually, because there's always another asshole who wants to be, top of the, wants to play king of the mountain. Everybody wants to be mayor at some point. Everybody wants to be king of the mountain, and it happens, and it just gets annoying. I just wish that if I didn't want to.
You want to play king of the mountain? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Of my own area, yes, in my own life, like I feel. Like,
oh, okay.
But I can't do that. It's like that that blip we were listening to where this kid was talking to that old. It was from a movie. And it's called Anarchist versus something. Anarchist kid versus something. And he talks about is man free to travel? And the guy tells him yes when he's all not without a passport. And that's where I'm at right now. I couldn't like you said, Rick. Okay, if I don't like it here, I can fucking leave, right? But I can't, dude, because I don't have a passport.
Well, I think we determined you have 3 choices.
I can't leave.
You can leave. Well, you can leave. You might not be able to enter another country or whatever.
Where am I going to go?
Right.
Well, there's a big ocean. You could go back, float out in it. Come on.
That's great.
That is true. I
Frankie,
can start my own barge. Just put a barge out there and make my own little plane. That'd be great.
An interesting idea. Some people, I think, are actually doing that, trying to build communities, out in the international waters. I've heard some stories of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a philosophical discussion. I'm not suggesting that you should have to get out or anything like that. That's not really my position. But I'm just trying to. My point was, that it really comes down to this. None of us owns this world. We all have to work together, and there's always going to be friction, and we're going to have to figure that out.
Right, and I'd like to put forth there are 3 positions, but you already said that earlier, but not in so many words, that you can work to affect change in your reality around you. You can get out.
I think that's what I do.
Or go along with it.
Sure.
But,
I think that's what we're all trying to do.
You still have to go along with something to affect change.
To get along?
Yeah, I made an agreement with the person that owns this building, to give them X amount of dollars every month, and I fulfilled that agreement. That's my word. I gave him my word, and I fulfilled that. We didn't have a complicated contract or anything like that. We didn't need one.
But you didn't have a constitution. Your yeses were your yeses, and your noes were your noes.
Well, I'm trying to live that way nowadays. Before, when I was in the computer industry, you could buy my yes and no with my salary. And it was like, well, the company says to say yes, and I would. It was, they're paying me for it, right? I'm the talking head representing this company. I'll tell you just anything I want. So I have some ethics issues in my past, and I'm trying to work through those.
It's your karma now. Well, hey, man.
Okay.
Well, Rick, I know you had mentioned something about you not having enough cell phone battery life to go into the all the arguments you could go against anarchy, right? And so hopefully we can have you on again. But I wanted to reiterate, hey, thanks for coming on, dude. This was awesome. I liked the conversation, and it was cool having somebody at least, even if you didn't agree with me, you still were willing to at least talk about it. So many people get angry about this, especially when you go. It seems like you're going at the military or anything like that. Some people are quick to become defensive, and it's just glad to see that. No, hey man, all right, I'll have the conversation. Let's discuss this. Let's get some clarification. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and what you guys are doing is important. You guys are out there. You're making the discussion happen, and that is essential to any progress we make in our country as well. I'll try to live in this 3-bedroom apartment building we live in.
That we were all born into.
Yeah, here we go. We're the walls of our cage. That's good.
So, if you wouldn't mind, in these last moments, telling the people how they could get involved and contribute in any way to VAPA, the next thing to look forward to, anything with you, any events y'all are going to be at. Because we noticed you personally weren't at the second Peaceful Street Summit, but you had members that showed up there. We got to hang out with
Yeah,
them and take pictures.
Yeah, I was deployed to Korea, unfortunately, so I couldn't make that one. But yeah, it was cool to have some of the VAPA guys that were able to show up, and I wish I could have made it. Really would have liked to have met Bobby Steele and Radley Balco, among others. But I was.
Oh yeah, that was crazy, man. That was a good show. You know, maybe they'll do a third.
Hopefully.
I hope so. If they don't, then I guess somebody else is going to have to stand up and make it happen. I'm not pointing any fingers, but I think it should be you guys.
What?
Yeah, that's funny.
We're supposed to be doing a Christmas parade here soon, and we're supposed to be done float. And that's about as far as the next thing we got planned.
Okay, Rick. Well, we're going to let you go. You have a great night now. Thanks for joining us.
All right, you guys do the same. We'll see you later.
All right. Wow. So that was cool. That was Rick Rynearson with VAPA.
Mm-hmm.
It was great to have him on. Thanks, Rick.
I kind of expected you guys to fight a lot more.
Did you?
Yeah, totally.
I did too.
Yeah.
I did expect an argument, but I'm glad it didn't happen because you know what? Arguments don't necessarily solve things.
They don't have to end in two people getting all hurt.
Right. And I'm tired. I've had enough of that within these last 24 hours of me being. So it was nice to have a conversation with somebody about something that I was curious.
So what's the answer to the question?
What was my question?
Well, is the people that serve in the military good or evil?
That wasn't ever my question. Because remember, me and Rick agreed that you can't judge the people of the military as a collective. Just like you can't judge all of us that live on this strip here in what is it, Grass Valley Trail.
Right.
You can't judge all of us in a collective. We are all individuals, and the same thing exists in the police, in the military, in the fire department. Whoa. And in Congress, and It's up to the individual, and it's good though that I got a better understanding of what lawful in the military's eyes could understanding. And
really, how so?
Well, as like he said, like Rick pointed out, is that the military or service members or service people, not just the military, but anyone in the service, the public service, right? They are doing the will of the people. You know, like Iraq, like he cleared up, like how he saw it, that Iraq was lawful because Congress passed the Wars Act or Wars Resolution that gave them the ability to either authorize or declare war, right? And so making the invasion of Iraq lawful.
Right. You know,
even though
for sure. That was a little clarity on the laws and how they went into this, transgression, but it wasn't a transgression, he points out, right? It was kind of, they authorized the ability for the executive to do this kind of incursion into another country. Oh no, it's all crazy stuff when you think about it.
It is. It's all crazy, and like I said, it was cool though that we were able to just have the discussion in there. And I hope we can have Rick on again, and
he'll be back.
And let's talk about his 3-hour discussion of why he's against the anarchy.
I don't know. We'll see what is interesting, Rick. I would like to hear some more anarchy stuff.
Well, I mean, it's just. That's the closest understanding I can get to being able to live on the planet in a cohesive world where I'm subject to evils and regulations unless I voluntarily agree to them. Mm. And that's not what I currently live under, and I have not experienced that government. And as far as I understand and read through what the U.S. Constitution says, it wouldn't be that. And the republic, living under the republic, like the Republic of Texas, would be close. It's like anarchy 64, anarchy, but with only 64 calories. Well, a third of the carbs. So, yeah.
Dude, I want you to play that Ron Paul clip.
Oh, yeah. I just want to mention and this might be you might want to go into this a little bit, but rest in R.I.P. JFK. This is the 22nd of November. This was the day he was shot and executed in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
But you want to hear that Ron Paul clip? So
yeah,
Ron Paul talks about interventionism, or he's asked about interventionism in the 2008 debate. So let's pull it up real quick. And this is how Ron Paul feels about it.
Then we have a problem. They don't come here to attack us because we're rich and we're free. They come and they attack us because we're over there.
Is that true?
What would we think if we were, if other foreign countries were doing that to us?
I really do.
Well,
we're over there,
and then
that's why they're
over here
resisting.
Right.
We're intervening
in their squabbles
for their own good. Right, so we justify that, and we say, well, we have to go into Syria, we have to go into
Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq, Turkey. We have to invade these nations because, for their own good, because their people need us. We have to go there because they're fighting and their governments are da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, well, my whole thing is, what authority do you have to go and fight? Who made you the moral good guy? Right?
Sure.
Who made you the moral good guy to go over there? Right? And it's like, well, and he brings up, Ron Paul brings up an interesting point at the end.
Come from? Well, at the end of the clip, or the end of the segment?
And of this clip. That first little bit that we played.
The whole thing.
Okay, here we go.
Then we have a problem. They don't come here to attack us because we're rich and we're free. They come and they attack us because we're over there. I mean, what would we think if we were, if other foreign countries were doing that to us?
Can I have 30 seconds, please? No, wait a second. Let's all get 30 seconds. They are coming. We all want 30 seconds. We'll
making a ruckus and creating a distraction.
I think I'm going to turn to Senator McCain and change the subject, if I will. I don't think we're going to solve this tonight, gentlemen. And Internet.
So, but at the end of that, before Ron Paul, or during while he gets they use the bell on him because they know they're out. Ron Paul's out there laying body blows and face shots and fucking knocking down the Fed. And so they're all ding, ding, ding. That's the end of that round. Shut up, Ron. He makes a point. Well, what would we do as Americans if these dudes from China or some foreign government came in here and started bombing us, kicking in our doors, kicking in our neighbors' doors, killing our getting into our business? What would we do? Right, and that's one of my points. Right, this morning when I woke up and I was listening to Real News Radio on RBN, Baron Shope, he's the host. He does a Saturday morning thing, and he started talking about Mexico. Crazy stuff. That goes down there in Mexico? I've never heard of this stuff. He's all, yesterday, 45, protesters, 45 protesters were protesting the police and yada yada, and the police rounded them up and gave them to the gangs, and the gangs put them in a bar and burned them. And we're not hearing about that, right? We're hearing about all sorts of different stuff. And so the only source of information that you get is, I can't read Spanish, can you? I should have some kind of a Spanish thing, but what are the Spanish newspapers or the Mexican newspapers? Can I get those here? Can I get them, transcribed or whatever? Where's the accurate news? Their government's gangs and all that, and our government's involved with their gangs and whatever. I just don't understand it sometimes. It just blows my mind. But the military, what's their role in this whole thing? In Mexico, the military's involved quite a bit, right? They're the right arm of the government, and they do have a lot of corruption, and
yada yada, and we are giving them guns and selling them guns and giving them aid, and wow. Interventionism, like Ron Paul says, is there something called blowback, the time that everything comes back to you because you're sitting there supplying weapons and arms and, Lord knows, money to what? Your friend? Your enemy? It's kind of like, pretty crazy. We're coming up to the end of the show. I'd like to thank you for tuning in on Saturday. And, I know it's an off day. We're going to have a few different changes as we come. We've been working on the audio quality and the studio mixers and,
just the entire layout of of everything, yeah. We've been getting more familiar with Rivendell, and this is cool. It's kind of interesting having this where the breaks were automatically going to come in and everything like that. A little more work. We need to make a little more variety of breaks.
We can make it less work.
Yeah.
But the difference in the show audio quality is the break transitions and blah, 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 blah. Play clips and, timely information. Kind of okay.
So, yeah.
Push the button.
Oh, you know what? From our discussion, though, I need to figure out, though, I guess we might need to go a little bit more about how do we help to keep the military accountable beyond changing policies and what is defined as lawful. Because, like Rick had pointed out, as he sees it, that the military the armed forces are only carrying out the will of the people, what they deemed lawful, because through their representative. So in order to change that, you have to change the policy and the policy makers.
We just did. We just talked about it. We started this discussion. Where you go from there is there. Is this the golden spoon or whatever Antonio stepped into when he filmed those cops on New Year's Eve? The formation, all the crazy events that formed the Peaceful Streets Project, which must have been a multiplier by at least the factor of 10. The amount of people that actually said, we need to film the police. So, military accountability, I still don't understand that, right? Who are we accountable to and for? Does that mean that I have to deal with Barack Obama and how he's sitting there doing whatever the hell he wants?
Well, not just him, but all of Congress. Your rep,
like he has a lot of powers, right? The
and
Congress sat there and said, you can declare war as long as you have buffer period. And, go ahead and do whatever. And the CIA goes, hey, man, this is okay. We're dropping a drone in a country that, we don't like. Yeah. And it's just a thing, right? It's not a war.
Yeah, this is just intelligence.
So
this is national security.
We always talk about it. I think that's important for us. I don't know what other people can do. What can other people do?
Same thing.
Email their president and stuff.
They can try that.
Yeah. Okay.
They can hashtag their president, follow him on Twitter. He does do all that stuff,
pretty good.
Supposedly.
But
I'm pretty sure.
We Resistors Radio. Or
pretty sure it's an assistant that types out what he wants to say. Yeah. There's all different kinds of ways to do this. But if we supposedly live in a free market and a free society, right, so all those different ways are effective. So even us just sitting here having a conversation, and like we do on this one and normal shows that we do, our weekly show that's on Friday night at 7 p.m. Texas Standard Time on the We Resistors network.
Right.
These things, the shows that we constantly do, they will affect change eventually. I mean, what is it? We looked on the old FBGlive channel, 10,000 listeners for the return of Frankie.
Right.
That was fucking great. I felt like I was a damn movie premiere or something. 10,000 people came and saw my movie.
Those were quite dramatic days, if you do remember.
And they're gonna get a lot more interesting. So. We got a new interesting entanglement with the state coming up.
You can leave us in the dark if you want to go into that.
No, we're not going to go into that tonight. No, not at all. I have to see if I get permission from all parties involved to go into that.
Okay.
Before I go into it. So anyway.
So check it out.
What you got? What you got?
You know, I know we're running a little bit low on time.
We got days.
But I'd like to tell you, as I was digging through the old FBGlive files and I was logged in, you know, this morning we had rain. And I'm driving around in this heavy-duty rain in Texas, and I'm going, this is great. And I have this idea. You got to turn on the FBGlive Blog Talk radio channel because, well, it's important right now to have extra communication strength.
For sure.
And I feel like talking.
Yeah.
You know.
You want to be a chatterbox?
Well, in the broadcaster's career, you can sit there and I want to talk, and then you go, I don't want to talk at all.
Ever.
You know, you go through those bland periods. And I've gone through those bland periods, and I've stopped.
Me too.
Well, anyway, so we have the old FBGlive channel, and we're looking through it, and those are some crazy stats. I'm like going, wow, that many people, like watching people go to jail, and then I listen to the episode everybody's, you know, interested in, and they're, you know, pretty much in line with the Frankie Goes to Jail series. But we're starting up that channel again, and it'll come live next Sunday at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, or Texas time, as we like to call it. And it's going to be called, you know, The Rabbit Hutch.
The Rabbit Hutch.
So, you heard it here.
What other kind of things are going to be in the Rabbit Hutch?
Well, the first episode, right, it's kind of built in a mini-series type scenario. You know how I like my little, you know, sun balloons or whatever the hell we call them. You know, the first episode is called The Cage We Live In, right? And we're going to be discussing all the rules that bind us to our reality. And, you know, we're going to try to look at the laws, what imprisons you from the time you're born, you know. So, Sunday, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Not this Sunday, next Sunday, right?
Yeah, not tomorrow. What day is that? Dink. Slow. Doing more than it wants. That would be Sunday the 7th.
Sunday the 7th, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The Rabbit Hutch.
The Rabbit Hutch. First edition.
FBGlive, Blog Talk Radio, right? Nothing happened. Well, that'd be cool, though. I like the morning. It was interesting when we tried to do that with FNS and Unconventional Ranching. We did a Saturday morning gig. We were all having coffee. It was interesting because now it's like we switched into, it's a year later, and we switched into, well, now you get to see what we do on Friday. And what we were doing the night before the Saturday morning show, we were getting shit-faced on air on a Friday night, or getting shit-faced and then going, crap, we got to wake up in the morning and do the show at 8 o'clock in the morning. I got to figure it out. So now we're going to go back to that and do it on a Sunday. Or at least, no, it won't be like that. There'll be a day reprieve with Steve doing the Rabbit Hutch on the FBGlive Blog Talk channel.
Yeah. You know what I find significant about this, and what just tickles me and was so hard about doing, was giving Blog Talk $29 so I can do a 1 hour. Because I kind of like the 1 hour format. And so Blog Talk is a restricting platform. It's a good platform. I got to say that. You know, it allows you to have callers and do this and that. But $29 gets you 2 months, 120 minutes. The Weed Resistors channel will sit there and let you do 3 hours for $100 a month, and that's a significant price change. I don't really need that. But I need something like Blog Talk, I come to understand. You know, after starting my broadcasting career, I'm used to talking about everything that I deal with. These are the days, you know, sometimes you don't want to talk.
Right.
sometimes nobody can understand you.
Nobody really cares to understand you.
Yeah, maybe you don't even care to broadcast.
But you get on there.
Yeah. It's like Kenny Rogers said, you got to know how to poke them.
Is it poke them?
Well, I don't know that guy.
You know, you got to stack them.
Yeah.
You got to choke them.
I don't know Kenny Rogers.
God damn, there's a lot of people all of a sudden in the studio. So, all right. So, anyways, I'd like once again to go ahead and thank Rick Rynearson of VAPA, Veterans Against Police Abuse, for coming in and talking to us. Join us again next week at a regular time, 7 p.m. Texas Standard Time on the Resistance Network for FBGlive Friday. Yeah, man. This was fun. On FBGlive.
Move up and let the man go.
Remember, and always, anarchists for the people. And fuck the man.
Enough fun and games. FBG Live.
One thing, if somebody is an anarchist and they totally believe in no government and they don't use force at the moment to go and start shooting up the government so we don't have any government, that would be wrong. But to be an anarchist and assume responsibility for yourself, I think this is a great idea. And there's a lot of people. There's a lot of very close friends of mine who think political action is terrible and worthless. I happen to be one that believes that education is probably paramount, but political action can be very helpful, and sometimes political action, my elections and things, and galvanizing interest is a measurement of our success on our ideas. So I think this is very important. But anarchy is not harmful to me, as long as you, especially if you give up on, if you're a true libertarian, you've rejected the use of force. I don't have to worry about you. But if you don't want to, your biggest problem of being an anarchist in a government that doesn't agree with you is that, well, I want to opt out, they're going to come with guns. But, we do have incidents where some people do get to opt out. And, when you think about the Amish and the Mennonites, I think they get exempt, and they like to just think those groups, why couldn't all of us have that opportunity? Look, we voluntarily want to get out, and we want to take care of ourselves. Either an individual should be allowed to do that and get no benefits from the government, or a group can do this. A libertarian society actually gives full permission for socialism, voluntary socialism. If you want to get together, and there's been experiments with that in our history, you can have voluntary socialism. If you go together and you agree, and we're running this community, large, small, or whatever, on a socialist scheme, you should be allowed to. But we should be allowed, to stay out of that. But the problem is, it's so inefficient that the socialists know their system is going to fail, so they have to use the force of a government gun to take money from the people who aren't socialists in order to subsidize their program. But libertarianism gives full legal protection of anybody who wants to have voluntary socialism. But socialists never will endorse the idea of you having your personal liberty where you can take care of yourself and not ask for nothing from anybody else.
In a world where tyranny is rampant, few men dare to stand out from the sheep. We are those men, resisting tyranny wherever it may be found. We Resistors Network of Podcasts.
Let the man go through, let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through.
I'm a millennial.
I'm a millennial.
I'm a millennial.
I'm a millennial, and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry.
We suck, and we know it.
We're self-centered. We're entitled. We're narcissistic, lazy, and immature.
And we're super sorry about that.
We're the worst. If only we could be more like our parents.
Yeah, the baby boomers. You guys were great.
You gave us great music.
60s counterculture. Psychedelic drugs. A lot of great movies, too.
Jurassic Park was awesome. Good job with that one.
We don't know what happened. You raised us to believe that we were special.
So special that we didn't even have to do anything to earn it.
I got this trophy for existing in soccer. That's pretty special.
No idea what went wrong.
You tried your best. You insisted we all go to college, and now we're the most educated generation in American history. Sure, college costs 600% more than it did when you went, and yes, we averaged like $30,000 in student loan debt.
But here we go again, making excuses. We're so lazy.
Instead of living in our parents' basements and waiting tables, we should just go and get real jobs, like you did.
I mean, not a job in manufacturing since those all got outsourced in the 90s.
Man, the 90s were great. Do you guys remember Full House? Good show. We graduated into a recession, and 90% of the jobs created since 2009 are part-time. But let's be honest, we just don't like hard work.
Gee, what was the deal with that recession anyway?
I think it had something to do with the housing bubble that started in the 90s. I don't know, I was still pretty young back then.
Oh, and we're really sorry about messing up those 2 wars you guys started. Sorry so many of our friends died.
We just can't do anything right.
We're really sorry we suck so much.
I mean, it's not like we jacked up college tuition prices or
destroyed the manufacturing industry.
Started 2 quagmire wars.
Gutted the unions.
Destroyed the global economy. And left our offspring with an environmentally devastated planet stripped of its natural resources. Man, it'd be crazy if there was a generation that recklessly awful, huh?
But we do text too much. Yeah.
I know, right?
So on behalf of all the millennials, we'd like to apologize for being so terrible. From now on, we're going to be just like the baby boomers. Because you guys, you nailed it.
Drinking Paycraft beer #hops.
It's kombucha. I brew my own with yerba mate and palm sugar. Oh my God, Julia! Whose turn was it to get sriracha this week? Fine, I'll get it.
Siri, how to fix a bicycle. Call my dad.
freedom, freedom, oi! Freedom, 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 oi!
In a world where tyranny is rampant, few men dare to stand out from the sheep. We are those men, resisting tyranny wherever it may be found. We Resisters Network of Podcasts.
Got 30 slow. Eastside and road key. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna tell y'all a little something about this underground. My underground is my sound. Turn me up, don't turn me down. I'm a king, but I don't need no crown. My soldiers ready to put it down. Turn around and move around. I'm not Hova, but I run this town. Yeah, I do this for the underground. Because you have to start somewhere to push your sound. Even when the labels put down from the ground and put on my seed and make the beats until my hands bleed. That's right. Get my lyrical push-ups until my chick push up. After that, I lit the kush up. Then I understood the power of the dollar. Seen these women holler like a pimp. I had to pop my collar. Make my own beats, write my own lines, multi till I die. Kill MCs like who wanna try faster than you can blink your eye. I don't wanna make your family cry. Cause you choose today that I rap it up, get it up, so no one can hear the sound and feed it to the underground. I do this underground. I do this for the people, put it down in the underground. If you ain't real, don't come around. Yeah, there's plenty killers down here in the underground. Yeah, I do this for the underground. I do this for my people, put it down in the underground. If you ain't real, don't come around. Yeah, there's plenty killers down here in the underground. In the underground. In the underground.
I'm just a Texas boy that came up out the ghetto. Dreams of being up on stage and rocking crap the dirty treble. Fucking mental. I want something that be way more everlasting. Look at these pussy rappers that I'm passing. Messing the gas, boy, I'm ready for action. I put it on for THC. Underground, that's where I be. Fuck the industry and phony friends that really be your enemies. I ain't got time. Yeah, play my part and write these raps on hydroponic sex. Now, is you down with that?
Garcia Vegas, bongo papers, girls that chase us. I'm not complacent, I keep them waiting. Money making is my main objective. I'm getting staking to make a lane for terror gang. We out of control. THC boys, we bring the noise like thunderous rain. Seeing past two lanes like window panes. Chopping the block, not speak cocaine. Run the streets, how a player maintains. Sweeps the dome, as I swing through the lane. Sunset to sunrise.
Bitch, I'm hot for contact from the bomb sack. From the bomb that little blonde ass, I'm on that. Pretty ganja from the top fix to Tijuana. Hot box like a skinny sauna. I ate it up like Benny Hanna's, and after that night I didn't call her. Cause bitch, ain't nobody gonna be smoking for free. I ain't gonna share no cushion with you unless you part of my homie team. Over no homie, more trees I breathe G. Excess on weed shit. You must not know me. I roll like pieces of sushi, nigga.
I do this for the underground. I do this for the people. Put it down in the underground. Real don't come around. Yeah, there's plenty killers down here in the underground. I do this for the underground. I do this for the people. Put it down in the underground. If you ain't trill, don't come around. Yeah, there's plenty killers down here in the underground. 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 That's right. Yeah, I do this for the underground. Yeah, I do this for the people in the underground.
And what's that you're reading?
Karl Marx.
Surely you're not a communist.
Do I have to be a communist to read Karl Marx?
Rupert. That's a valid answer. Well, if you're not a communist, what are you?
Nothing.
Nothing?
I dislike all forms of government.
But somebody must rule.
And I don't like the word rule.
Well, if we don't like the word rule, let's call it leadership.
Leadership in government is political power, and political power is an official form of antagonizing the people.
What magazine did you say he edits?
A commentary on current events.
Pardon me. But, my dear young man, politics aren't
necessary. Politics are rules imposed upon the people.
In this country, rules are not imposed. They are the wish of all free citizens.
Travel around a bit, then you'll see how free they are.
Yes, but you didn't let me finish.
They have every man in a straitjacket, and without a passport, he can't move a toe.
But if you you'll allow me to...
In a free world, they violate the natural rights of every citizen.
But you don't let me pull you...
They have become the weapons of political despots.
Yes, but may
And
I...
if you don't think as they think, you're deprived of your passport.
Will you allow me...
To leave a country is like breaking out of jail.
Yes,
and to enter a country is like going through the eye of a needle. Am I free to travel?
Of course you're free to travel.
Only with a passport. Do animals need passports?
Have you finished?
It's incongruous that in this atomic age of speed, we are shut in and shut out by passports.
If you'll shut up and let somebody else talk...
And free speech, does that exist?
No, you've got it all.
And free enterprise.
We were talking of passports.
Today it's all monopoly.
All right. Now will you...
Can I go into the automobile business and compete with the auto truck?
If I can get in a word...
Not a chance. Can I go into the grocery business and compete with the chain stores?
Will you shut up?
Not a chance. Monopoly is the menace of free enterprise. As I look back 60 years ago...
Very well now. Have you finished? Now let me say something. Let me tell you how wrong you are. In the first place. Now I've forgotten what I wanted to say.
And the atomic bomb.
Ah.
It's a crime that when the world cries for atomic energy, you want to make atomic bombs.
Me? I'm against atomic bombs.
You want to wipe out civilization. Destroy all life on this planet. You and your kind think that atomic bombs can solve your problem.
Listen, you little rat.
Today, man has too much power. The Roman Empire collapsed with the assassination of Caesar. And why? Because of too much power. Feudalism blew up with the French Revolution. And why? Because of too much power. And today, the whole world will blow up. And why?
Because of too much power.
The monopoly of power is a menace to freedom. It degrades and victimizes every individual. And where is the individual?
I don't know.
Lost in terror, because he's made to hate instead of love.